Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're looking at the Castlevania Netflix series, which is a series that had no right being as good as it turned out to be. This shit had all of the makings of a greedy cash grab, a soulless, passionless project. For example, like taking Avatar The Last Airbender and making it live action, just taking the biggest, fattest, stinkiest diarrhea shit all over the legacy of it. That's what this sounded like. It was quietly announced in 2017. No one really had many expectations going into it, and Season 1 turned out to be fucking great. And Season 2 just released, and I think it's equally as good, but it has a lot more problems. The first of which being the number of episodes. Season 1 has 4 episodes, but it felt huge. It felt like a lot went into them. Season 2 has 8 episodes, and some of the episodes feel entirely pointless and filled with just dialogue to pad for time. My guess is they had around the same budget for Season 2 as Season 1, but Netflix wanted 8 episodes instead of 4, so they had to stretch it out artificially. So you get some weird dialogue and some odd pacing, but that's not too big of an issue because everything else kind of makes up for it. Castlevania has a really compelling story and characters, an interesting plot. It takes Dracula, it takes the evil, and it humanizes it, and you can almost feel for them and the cause. And all of the characters are really interesting and well thought out characters, except for a couple who are just comically evil, like a bad vampire Viking who's just this naughty bad guy who likes to think about titties and fuck ass with his penis and kill things and drink blood. But other than that, all the characters, they're very interesting, well-rounded, and they have sad backstories, and the show gets really dark. The show gets really gritty and paints humanity in a very negative light. It's not a happy show, but sometimes they try and ham-fist happy jokes into it, which really just doesn't fit the overall tone. Like I said, I feel like it just pads for time with some stilted dialogue. But I like that it gets that dark and it gets super violent and gory. You'll have people's skin being melted off and being flayed alive, heads flying all over the place, gore galore. It's different. It reminds me of like the late 80s, early 90s wave of anime where everything was ultra violent. Everything was shockingly edgy, but in a good way. Like, you know, edgy has this connotation where it's always negative. Oh, it's edgy? Ooh, I'm going to stay away from that. But sometimes edginess can be super fucking fun to watch, and I think Castlevania, in this case, is good. It's good edginess, and I do think there is edginess for the sake of it, but it fits the show's tone well, and the animation in this show is second to none. This is by far the best American-made animation since The Last Airbender. I can't think of anything else that even comes close. It's so smooth, it's so fucking crisp, and it's lovely to look at, beautiful at times, but there is an issue I have, and it's during the fights. Sometimes it just gets really choppy, as if it's like a bad connection in an online FPS. It starts to like lag. So you'll have Belmont throwing a punch, and then it starts to like slow down as it's about to make impact, and then it makes impact, and then all of a sudden it jumps frames, and now the thing's flying across the room. Like it feels like you were watching a PowerPoint presentation, but some of the slides in between were missing, so then you're just left to kind of fill in the details in your head. And it doesn't happen with every fight, but towards the end of the show, it starts to really show. It gets really choppy during some of the action, which is very odd, and I do think it just comes down to, well, they had to stretch it out for 8 episodes this time instead of 4, so they couldn't really focus too much on that and make it as smooth as it was in Season 1. Also, another thing, during the fights, the sound is super off. You'll have someone getting hit with a sword, and it sounds like someone just shot a spitball at them. The sound just doesn't match up with the actions you're seeing. So you'll have a guy throwing a punch and getting hit, and it sounds like someone took a wiffle ball bat to a rock outside. It's just weird, and it's jarring, and you'll notice it for sure. But that's like my only big complaint. It's the only one that I can really think of. The show is super fucking good. I honestly can't stress enough how much I like the fight scenes in this show. They're so beautifully animated, one, except for when it gets choppy, and two, they're super different. They seem like super well choreographed. One of my big problems with like anime fights and cartoon fights is it's always kind of the same formulaic shit. Here's my big move, and then villain, here's my big move. Oh, we clashed. Here's a bigger move, here's a bigger move. We clashed again, but I have the biggest move. Oh, I've beaten the villain. And the fight lasts all of like 2 minutes, and in between there's always this talking, like they'll throw a move and then stop to talk and like have some idle chit chat about Tinder dates or some shit during the fight, or the power of friendship, and then they'll get back to it for another 10 seconds. Castlevania just gives you a fucking ton of action. Like the fight at the end with Dracula is so great and so well choreographed. It's not just like the standard, here's a spell, let's talk. It's let's just fucking pummel each other in cool ways, dodging moves, doing some cool fucking Wing Chun moves on them occasionally. It's fucking great. I love the fights in this show. Let's plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving the Castlevania series an 85%. I think if season 2 was less episodes, 4 or 5, like season 1, where it could be more focused, more smooth, I think it would have been even better. It could have got rid of all the filler and shit, but it's still a fantastic fucking show, even if you're not a fan of the Castlevania series. So yeah.